Open your image inside Photopia. Make sure that your colours are showing as black and white. Go over to Image, Adjustments, Threshold. Turn your image black and white and adjust to get the outcome that you're looking for. Press OK when you're happy. So we're just going to isolate the black from the white. So I'm going to use the magic wand and select the white section. If your white sections are not connected, you'll need to either tick or untick contiguous. If we press backspace, we can see that this selection wasn't, this part of the white bit wasn't selected because it didn't connect to any of the white bits. So actually, if you untick contiguous and I click on this white bit, it will also select all those others as well. And then I can press delete. So I'm just going to do Control D so that nothing is selected. So to make your image look like Warhol, we're going to add another layer, and we're going to put this layer beneath the one with the person on it. So you just simply click and drag. We're going to use a magnetic lasso or just a lasso tool. The magnetic one clings to things, so we're just going to use the lasso tool to draw some unusual shapes. So you simply kind of draw where you think you would like to add some colour to look like Warhol. And I'm going to use the paint bucket, and the paint bucket uses colours that are here showing on your colour palette. If you can't find the paint bucket, it might be under the gradient, so just long press on the tool and find it there. So we're using the paint bucket and I'm going to use a pink colour. Click on the colour picker to choose what colour you'd like. So I need to make sure I'm working on this layer, and I'm going to go and fill that shape in. So I'm going to do Control D to deselect, and then I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to draw another shape using this. So I might overlap this shape and make a triangular shape that way, which now I'm going to fill with another colour, and I'm going to choose maybe a yellow. So I can just fill it in fully like here and it will go over this, or I could you can change the opacity of the fill here, so I could fill it with a less solid colour, or I can just change the opacity of the layer over here. So now you can see this shape through this shape, so you can make the layers have more interesting features. So I'm going to do Control D to deselect. Okay, I'll do select, deselect. Now, because they're on separate layers, I can use the move tool and click transformation controls, and I can change the size of this section. I can use the rotation arrow to turn it if I think it would look better elsewhere. And I can also rub bits out, so part of that shape is a little bit awkward, so I'm going to get the rubber, just use the normal eraser, which might be hiding behind the brush, and change the size of the brush to get it how I want it. I might make it a bit bigger. And this brush has a hard edge. You can make it have a fuzzy edge if you prefer, but I'm going to use the hard edge. I'm just going to take away that part of it. Okay, so you can add coloured layers like that. I'm just going to open my image again. And my image was here. I'll say open. And this time I'm going to get an outline of it. So if I go to filter, filter gallery, and I can choose, if I move down, I can choose to get a photocopy. Should be somewhere, there it is. I can choose for it to have a bit more detail and maybe make it a bit darker. The line is quite bold, so I might see if I can kind of lighten that a little bit and make it more of an outline. Okay, so I've got more of an outline now. So I'm just going to use the magic wand and I'm going to select the white section. I've got all the white sections because I had that unticked, and I'm going to press backspace. And then, so at the minute I've got the empty space selected, so if I do select inverse, I've got the black bit selected, then I can say edit, copy, go back in here, edit, paste, and I have a layer of outlines. So if I hide these, you can see I've got my layer of outlines. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to move the outline layer to the top and I'm going to change the colour of it. So if I just do image adjustments, I might actually threshold it so that I just make it fully black. It does have some little white bits in it too. We'll say OK. And then I'm just going to go to image adjustments, hue saturation. And I'm going to try and change the colour of it. Just need to see it a bit bigger to see what I'm doing. Oh, it does have lots of white bits in. Okay, I'm just going to remove some of those white bits. So if I click on a white bit, press backspace, Control D, then I have all my white bits removed. Okay, so I'm just going to work on this layer and try to change the colour of this. So if I just go to image, and then I might try and just brighten it, make it a bit lighter. Well, that's not really showing anything. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a colour from here, so I'll choose a blue, any colour will do, and I am on layer 3. I don't have anything selected, and I'm going to go to layer, image adjustments, hue saturation, and I'm going to tick colorize, and it should make it blue. So okay, so we've at least got some colour in it. So now you can move it around and you can get different colours showing. So the hue changes the colour, the saturation changes the intensity, and the lightness and darkness obviously does what that does. So I can make it a much lighter line and say OK. So now if I just zoom out and put this back on, you can see that I have an outline just like in the Warhol pictures. So I can displace this outline if I'd like to. So I can just pick it up. Oh. If I untick auto select and make sure I'm on this layer, I can pick up this line and kind of slightly move it like in Warhol pictures. I can also add a layer at the bottom and just fill that in with some colour so that we can see kind of the effect of the outline. Now because that yellow is see-through, it's less vibrant now with that blue behind it. So the line layer, we can actually do some quite cool things with it if you use some modes on top of the layer. And you can see that I'm on colour dodge here. If I use the downward key, I can make the line interact with the colours that are beneath it. So it's kind of like doing things on particular parts and then not on other parts, so that the line doesn't have to be the same all the way through. So if you like it at a particular phase, then you just save it as that. So we've got a pin light. I quite like the pin light. And I quite like that. So I'm actually going to save it as a pin light. So I'm going back to that, and I'll do a file, export as JPEG. And so I can say this is design 1. Pull that up to the top and say save. Now that's saved as a flat image. To make sure I save it in layers, I need to go to File, Save as PSD, and I will call it Design 1. So now I've got it saved in layers, so I can move things around. I can get rid of shapes if I don't like the shapes and put different ones in. I can go back and say Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation again, and change it to a totally different colour, and say OK, and then I can save it as a different version and say File, Export as JPEG, and call it Design 2. So now I've got 2 different versions of it. I can also add colours in. So if I put another layer on top of this one, and could use the paintbrush. Paintbrush is behind there. I could maybe get a bit of a spray kind of brush and make my paintbrush a bit bigger. That's too big. Okay, so I'm going to choose kind of salmony pink colour, and I could add a bit of kind of spray behind here and sort of add some colour in places where I think I might like it. So that's underneath on that layer there, which is why it went beneath everything else. I could then make that layer a little bit see-through if I wanted to make the colour less intense, and do a file, export as JPEG Design 3. So I've got different versions of the same image. So make sure you're saving as PSDs and as JPEGs to explore ideas.